This week in 1958, Jet magazine featured this couple in its Mr. and Mrs. section. They are not celebrities or politicians or anyone of significant historical importance, just plain old everyday civilians like you and I who got themselves involved in some hot mess. Well, maybe they're not exactly like you and I. I'll read the story, sprinkle in my commentary, and you can decide if they were like you. Let's get into it. But first, if you like these videos about the most scandalous people from yesteryear that make the hot mess history with Ty Said What Ty Said channel a time capsule for the culture, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know every time that I upload one of these videos or every time that I live stream. And comment I subscribed in the comment section so that I can say hello to you. Now, on to why you are here. Today's story comes from this issue of Jet magazine, dated March 6, 1958. The article is called Mississippi White Woman Admits Loving Handyman, and it reads, "For hard-working, well-to-do, and white, Elmer Rose came a moment last week in Laurel, Mississippi that was both the height of triumph, he caught his wife in bed with another man, and the depths of shame, the other man was a Negro. That Rose was not surprised was attested by the fact that when he broke into Joe Scott's tenant shack at 3:50 a.m. on February 14th, he was accompanied by a sheriff, a deputy, and a state trooper armed with a warrant charging unlawful cohabitation. Penalty, 10 years maximum." Now, note you guys, this was on Valentine's Day, right? Anyway, back to the story. "He was tipped off," said the press, "by his Negro cook, wife of his hired man." Catch that? The cook of the house was married to the handyman who was getting serviced. All right, here we go. "Both parties were clad," the Laurel leader declared, pointing out that although the woman denied having intimate relations with the Negro that night, something must have happened since the clothing of both was in indecent disarray. In the state capital, Jackson, the Daily News, while it did not name the pair, carefully unzipped the Negro's trousers and pulled up the woman's dress. In Laurel, the story drew front-page space, told how the wronged husband had broken into the shack just 400 yards behind his home and found his, quote, handyman bedded down with his wife, the mother of 2 boys and 2 girls. But what made the story even more shocking was the fact that Rose's wife, 36, spurned the customary claim of rape, and while the handyman denied everything, she admitted having illicit relations with the 46-year-old Negro in early February. So before I move on, I just have to add in this piece of commentary. Did you hear that it said that she spurned the customary claim of rape? That means that she rejected the customary claim of rape. So she wouldn't pretend that she was assaulted, but that was the customary thing to do, meaning it was widely known that that is what white women would do in their positions, being caught having sex with black men. So for the life of me, can someone tell me that why, if this was the custom of the time, why on earth would black men keep risking their lives and their freedom? Just a question. At first, according to Sheriff Fred Walters, she denied any wrongdoing. "If so, I was under the influence of liquor and I didn't know it." That's what she said. Later, she admitted he had put his arms around her. "He was trying to make a pass at me." Still later, she confessed she was in her bedroom making the bed. Joe Scott had come in and it just happened. And at the base of it all was some bootleg liquor called Pop for short. Apparently Pop Your Skull is the long version of it. You guys bear with me because these Jet stories, they are written really weirdly back in the 50s. Anyway, I digress. Back to the story. In 1955, Pretty, red-headed Mrs. Elmer Rose hired Sarah Scott as her cook. Now, if you recall, last week's story, I told you all pretty much every time that Jet magazine talks about a white woman in the 1950s, they always say that she's pretty. Now, I admit this one looks a lot better than the one from last week. I kind of agree with them that she's pretty. Last week, not so much. Anyway, so she hired Sarah Scott as her cook. Later, Sarah's husband, Joe, came in from Livingston, Alabama, worked for Rose in the yard at his 3 service stations and asphalt manufacturing and shipping plant, and farmed a 2-acre tract of land at the house. Rose, who is her husband, right, was a pretty busy man, leaving early in the morning, frequently getting home after 12 at night. His wife had time on her hands and began to drink a little. The little became more, absorbed her household expense money so quickly that she stopped boozing on bonded brands and switched to Skull, what they called earlier Pop Your Skull. Degenerating into a drunkard, Mrs. Rose would give Joe money for liquor, but cut Sarah's salary from $18 to $15 to $10 a week, and finally got in arrears to the point that her husband took over payment of the help. She sold her husband's cow, and just as the potato crop was ready, sold a borrowed horse and left Joe to dig the potatoes by hand. So keep in mind that Joe is the hired help who she's sleeping with. He is digging potatoes by hand because the woman who he has chosen to be with sold her husband's farm animals. She sold a horse that her husband did not own to pay for her alcohol. That's attractive. Back to this lovely wife. She beat and cursed the children, raved at the help, harassed her husband. She drank her liquor straight and chased it down with buttermilk, ate little but poached eggs, moved into the downstairs den to escape her husband's wrath, started going to the tenant cabin to drink and talk with her cook and handyman. The day of the raid, Mrs. Rose began drinking, left with Joe about 7 p.m., returned with him to the cabin shortly after 10 o'clock. Although the newspapers neglected to mention it, Sarah insists she, too, was there with another man for the rest of the evening. Now, Sarah is the handyman's wife. Apparently, she was also with another man. You guys, the story is crazy. But back to it. When the door burst open on the white woman, she said to her husband, "What's this for, Elmer? I haven't done anything wrong." Mr. Rose said nothing, watched as his wife and handyman were carted off to jail in Laurel, then later to Hinds County in Jackson. Why didn't Rose kill his handyman and plead the unwritten law? To be clear, the unwritten law is basically a license to kill. So Elmer Rose, the husband in this case, is being asked, why didn't he just kill his help and then plead the unwritten law? So again, this black man knew that his life was literally at risk by sleeping with this woman. This man would have been able to plead the unwritten law and get off scot-free. But this is how the husband replied to Jet magazine. He said to Jet, "I got to thinking about it. I had a gun when we broke in, and I might have taken care of it there, but I'd still be in trouble. That would have been murder, and I don't believe in that. I'm a Christian man." How long had the ex-Texan known about the unlawful cohabitation? I'd suspected it for a good while. That's what he said. Did he think the drinking was a part of her problem? He said that was part of it. Did he plan to post $5,000 bond for his wife's release from jail? Said Rose firmly, "I don't reckon that I do." Y'all, I super hate how this story was written, but I think that you get the point of what happened. Miss Lady Ma'am here had a thing for her handyman here, and the two of them were getting it on. There's no picture of Mr. Elmer Rose, and I don't blame him. I would not want my photo associated with any of this foolishness. But this woman who looks so fed up, this is Sarah Scott, who was the handyman's wife. This is who tipped off the man of the house, Elmer, whose photo was never taken for this story. And here is the tenant shack where Mrs. Rose was going to get it on with her help. What the hell was she thinking? When you consider that she left this house, it says in the caption, set on a large tract, expensive Rose home has private lake, was scene of drinking bouts. Rated cabin was in rear. So this is where she left to go and hang out with her help. You guys, that is the hot mess history couple from this week in 1958. Let me know what you think about all of this. Put it in the comments and let's just get a discussion going. If you want to see another story about someone sleeping with the help, you can check out my video about the time when Jackie Jackson made Paula Abdul his mistress. Yes, as the choreographer for the Jacksons, she definitely would have been considered the help. And his wife, well, let's just say she didn't really go for that. You can check out that video here, and I will leave a link to it in the description box. If you want text notifications so that you can get a text 15 minutes before I release a video or 15 minutes before I live stream, simply send a text to 786-632-2135 to let me know that you want text, and you will get an outgoing text message 15 minutes before I have a new video release. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ty Said What Ty Said channel. Please leave a thumbs up and comment so that we can get a discussion going. And share this video on all of your social media, especially your Facebook. That really helps me out a lot. And subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know when my next video is ready for you. And if you don't like what I'm saying, but you love it, feel free to hit that applaud button just below your video screen there and send me some
donations.
Yeah, baby. See you on the next video.